What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Talking to Earthlings with Lunakye, where we explore the humanism within all of us. Today, we welcome music producer and transformational influencer, Marcus Bellringer. He has been on iTunes Billboard Top 10, has worked with artists Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, and Timbaland, and has been a prominent figure in the music industry for 44 years. And fun fact, he's been tap dancing since he was 6 years old. Marcus, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a while. How long has it been exactly?
Longer than I've had my daughter, which she's 6 years old now.
And she was adopted, right?
Yeah. Me and my wife adopted her.
Yeah. So at what age was she adopted?
She was 6 months.
Oh, okay, she was 6 months.
Well, no. We started fostering her when she was 6 months, but it's just been 2 years that she's been officially a Norris Bell. Because that's a whole process. There are hundreds of thousands of kids in the U.S. that are in foster care and need homes, and need love and support and so forth. So we're just very fortunate to have been able to traverse a system to be able to have our daughter.
Is she a rambunctious kid, or is she
She's
mellow?
amazing.
Yeah?
She is amazing. So she did her first song when she was 2. She wrote a hook for a rapper when she was like 3 years old. So she barely had words, but she came up with this hook. And so she knows herself as a songwriter, as a dancer, as an artist. So, I think it's important, how we know ourselves. A lot of times it takes a while for people to discover their capabilities, the things that they're good at. Inside of Melanie, she just knows herself to be able to do things, and the environment responds to that talent that she exhibits.
So why don't you start off by telling us about who you are and what it is that you do?
I'm a stand for all human beings being honored with dignity and compassion. So everything that I do, everything that I create, everything I involve myself in is for that stand. The way that it gets expressed is in music, is in entertainment, programs that I create, opportunities I create for building community, opportunities I create for sharing what I've learned in my journey so far and having people be able to apply those things to their lives. My marketplace identity is more as a music producer. Some people know me as Bellringer, a recording artist. Some people know me as Bellringer, the music producer. And then those people that are in my programs know me as someone that is supporting their growth and development, that's supporting them making an impact with their lives and their gifts and their abilities in the marketplace and being able to monetize it. And some artists know me as that person you call when something's happening and you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to break apart a lot of what you just spoke about. But the first question I have for you is it true that you play 12 different instruments?
Yes. So my first instrument was when I was 2 years old. I learned to play the piano. My mother in particular recognized that I had this ability to focus for long periods of time. So they could sit rocks or coins or pennies like in front of me, and I could just play with them for hours. As the story goes from what I hear in the family, my father said, why don't we try him on piano, right? And so they did, and by the time I was 6, I was performing professionally, and people were paying me for different things. At 8, I got hired as a music producer to replay a Whitney Houston song, because they couldn't find a karaoke. So around that early journey, I started seeing the connection between piano and how piano was kind of a portal to other instruments. Because piano is such a visual instrument, so you can see the notes, it made it easy to transfer into other instruments like saxophone. So I play saxophone, I play bass, but the piano, because it was my first instrument, creates a map that I can see inside of my mind when I'm in other instruments. So I would get inspired by people. So for example, have you heard of, Dizzy Gillespie? Have you heard of Dizzy Gillespie
I
before?
have not, no.
Okay, so Dizzy Gillespie is a famous jazz musician. Before he passed, I had an opportunity to meet him. And I saw him play the trumpet and what he did with the trumpet and how the crowd just responded to what he was doing. It was just like, they were like going crazy. And my father took me backstage to meet him. And so I remember being a kid in the backstage area and Dizzy Gillespie saw me and he called me over. He's like, hey kid, what, you think you're tough, right? And so if you see pictures of him, Dizzy has like these big cheeks, right? So when he played, he would fill up his cheeks like that. And so he's like, if you think you're tough, punch me in the stomach, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I look up to my dad and I look at Dizzy Gillespie and I'm like, oh, okay. And my dad was just like, so Dizzy does like this. And I punch him in the stomach and he goes, "Wah!" And I was like, I want to learn how to play the trumpet. I want to learn how to play the trumpet. And what he planted there was to have the capacity to be with a kid, right? Here's someone that's playing in front of, I don't know how many thousands of people, right? But his heart was so open and so big that he was able to like notice this kid and plant a seed with him that had nothing to do with the trumpet, but inspired me so much that I was like, you know what? I want to learn how to play the trumpet.
So do you think that he foresaw that? Like, did he plan that? Or was that just a product of that situation?
I think that's his personality. His personality was like just this big heart. And so you have some artists and entertainers and influencers and people that have notoriety and visibility that have the heart for people, that have the heart for kids. And that comes out, right, in any environment. And so I don't think he had in mind like, oh, this kid's gonna be able to play the instrument that I'm playing, right? But it was a byproduct of how he was being, and he had this being that evoked a possibility with me as a musician.
So I think this is what the movie is called. I think it's called A Beautiful Mind with Kevin Spacey. Have you seen that by any chance?
Yeah, a long time ago.
So he's a mathematical genius. Everywhere he looks, he sees numbers, and he's able to make these connections with numbers in the world. And I don't remember the exact plot of the story, but it kind of reminds me of what maybe your strength has always been with music. And you said that you started off on the piano and then segued into in almost like I don't know if visceral is the right word, but you kind of segued into you segued into the trombone or other instruments because you could translate it over because that's how your mind works. What do you have to say to that?
I do have this ability to see things, right? I'm able to see possibilities in people that they may not be able to see in themselves. I'm able to identify things that are missing in a marketplace and create products that fit inside of that marketplace, whether that's a song, whether that's an artist persona, whether that is a production. I'm able to see across genres. So I'm able to play and produce music in various genres because I'm able to see those connections, like you were saying about the character in that movie being able to see numbers everywhere. I'm able to see that with music. One of the people who inspired that capacity for me was a teacher I had at Berklee School of Music. His name was Dean Earl. And Dean Earl, he was about this tall, right? And piano player, he was one of my piano teachers. And Dean, you probably heard of Billie Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, I'm referencing all these like jazz people. I mean, I've trafficked in the jazz world and hip hop world and pop world, like that. But for some reason, a bunch of jazz people are coming out in this conversation.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love jazz.
Right, and so he played with Billie Holiday, and I mean, just one of the most incredible musicians that I've ever seen or been with or played, right? Played with. And the way we played together was at the piano together. When he played emotions, right? So whenever he started playing, you couldn't help but smile, right? Because there was something about the way he played which just brought happiness.
Yeah.
In terms of my training with him, we would sit there at the piano. We did more talking than playing. And he would play a classical piece. He's like, you see how this classical piece right here, how that is similar to this jazz piece, how it's similar to this pop song, how it's similar to this Broadway song, how it's like that. And so I was able to see through the lens of his expertise the connection between all the musical genres, right? And so I was able to if I put on my jazz hat, able to see that as it relates to being a music producer too. So I can see the differences inside of different music genres and then be able to dissect and then create something new inside of that genre.
That is so powerful. That's so cool. It takes a really intricate mind to be able to do that.
I believe we all have the capacity, the inner capacities to be able to bridge connections once we have the tools to be able to see that, right? And that's one of the things that I help train people in. It's like, oh, wow, you have this idea. Well, that idea, if you think about how that idea can be translated into other things, right? And it's like, oh yeah, okay. Now how can you apply that to something else? Once you have that distinction, then you can apply that to all kinds of things.
How exactly do you help artists develop their creativity?
Creativity is an aspect of development, right? I see creativity as kind of part of the flower of a cake. I realized that my role inside of being a producer is to first identify something in someone else that is great, right? To be able to hear their greatness, and then next help them realize that in a form that other people can see it. So I've had instances where someone is managing an artist and the artist has no experience getting in the studio and so forth, and they'll call me and say, Marcus, I have this new artist, and I want to hire you to produce them, because they know that what usually happens is the tone of the whole project gets established out of that session. Because part of the role of an artist, as far as I can tell now, is to communicate a point of view on the world or a point of view on an area of life, right? And so if you're looking at your artistry from that standpoint, if you're looking at what you're creating in entertainment as that you're delivering a point of view, then therein lies the ability to use creativity to access the articulation of that point of view so that it lands with an audience that you hopefully have identified who that audience is you want it to land with, and then they're able to receive it and then gain an impression about that. And so I do that as a producer, but also as someone that works with entrepreneurs and CEOs and people from different walks of life. Like I've transferred that ability into other areas, right? Where I support like a lot of people that are not artists. But as it relates to working with artists, so part of what's going on inside of a creative environment is I'm looking to help evoke a performance of greatness. But at the same time, I'm holding in the back of my mind that there's a place in the marketplace, that there is a spot somewhere in the music landscape for them to have a vehicle to be known, right? And so my job is to create a sound that's gonna help propel them into that opening in the marketplace So part of my job is to hold the marketplace in mind, hold who they are in mind, hold the intentions of all the business around them, all the resources that are being poured into them, to hold that in mind and allow for creative self-expression to manifest itself, to allow creativity to have a place where it can be expressed in a way that hopefully is unique enough that it differentiates an artist, but also engaging enough that it connects with audiences from different places, whether that's emotionally, whether that's spiritually, whether that is point of view wise, worldview wise. There's so many different lenses that we can look at artistry, that we can look at business and entrepreneurship. So sometimes, for example, there's a Canadian artist that I worked with right before COVID. And when he came into the studio, we came up with this hook. But what came up for me with the hook was not just the hook, but it came the whole marketing campaign, something that could actually be a multi-million-dollar enterprise if that were to be executed, right? Or the possibility of a multi-million-dollar enterprise just based on, a 30-second hook. So, yeah, so that's what I do.
You say that everyone has the capacity for greatness, or everyone has the same capacity. I do believe that there are people who are geniuses and there are people who are not. There's certain people who have a huge strength at one thing, and then there's people who are maybe like a little bit more even keel, and there's no judgment there.
Well, I like to respond to what you just stated. So in traditional education, one looks at like IQ or like these intelligence tests where it misses things. It's like, I think about my grandmother. She didn't graduate high school, right? She grew up on a farm, and et cetera. But she was genius with her hands. There was a period where she was making dolls. There was a period where she was making dresses, and then she made hats. Like, they called her the hat lady because she had this capacity, like she could see something and say, oh, that could be a hat, right? And then she would make these hats. So all these like church ladies would be coming to her house to buy these hats, right? So that thing that she was genius at, and I call it, she was genius with her hands, right? But she was able to create this like hat art, right? I would call it hat art because they were intricate. They had like all these different shapes and different like colors and textures and all of that, right? She wasn't famous for it, right? But that was something like that. And I believe that there are all kinds of different geniuses that people have. Somebody may be just genius at loving. Like I think about some friends of mine that have been divorced like five times, 5, 6, 7. Like, you're a genius at divorce, right? You're a genius at divorcing. Or someone that has done like 30 jobs. I have a friend of mine, she's literally had over 35 jobs since I've known her. 35 jobs, okay? There's a genius there. There's a genius there. She may not recognize that there's a genius there, but she has seen 35 different businesses, right? Now, if she were to look at it as a genius, right? Like, oh, well, wait a minute, I've been in the food industry, I've been in the fashion industry, I've been in this, I've done security, I've done this, I've done that, I've worked at a church, you start stacking those things. When you start stacking all of those things together, then there's a genius right there that she may not be able to see, that may not be able to be articulated, or she may not be able to express, but there's a value there in her experiences, which could be called genius. All people, I believe, have something that's like that, no matter what their IQ is, no matter what a perception is. This is why I think it's so important to just hold compassion and dignity for all human beings, because if you are going through the world that everyone that you interact with is a genius, that has something to offer you, that has some genius inside of them, whether they know it or not, whether they have discovered it or whether you discover it in a conversation, then, oh my gosh, what kind of world would that be if you're interacting with other people as though they're geniuses, right? That you have something to learn from their genius. What opportunity does that create for humanity? That's how I go through the world, right? So I've learned things from homeless people that were just like, oh my God, that's genius, that's brilliant, that is paradigm shifting, to a billionaire, right? Like I have billionaire friends that it's like, wow, that's genius that you would have done this and this and this and this, right? And so, yeah, like that. So, I mean, there's much more I could say about that, but I think I've articulated all that I would say right now.
Could you boil what you just said down to the ideology that your beliefs create your physical reality? It's the whole idea behind the law of attraction. It's the whole idea behind manifestation. Could you take everything that you just said and apply a different set of beliefs, but still have that same vibrance, still have that same tenacity and that energy, and still receive the outcome of abundance because you were emitting that frequency?
So there are a lot of cultural narratives that I would assert leave people disempowered. There are cultural narratives that have people be in a space of belief that actually doesn't work. So if I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to manifest money, and I'm here by myself thinking I'm going to attract, I don't care how much I say I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to attract millions of dollars going to come to me and so forth. I'm going to have abundance and wealth and all this kind of stuff. And I don't take actions. It's not happening, Captain. Yes, you can have that, okay, I am wealthy. But if you aren't creating value in the marketplace and articulating that value and having that value agreed upon and people to exchange money for that value that you have put into the marketplace, then, which is how millions are created, unless someone just gives you $1 million, that's possible, but it's not going to be possible inside of your house thinking I'm going to be a millionaire, right? So there's creating value, or there's asking, right? And then someone's going to give you $1 million because they see that there's some value in doing that exchange. There are a lot of broke manifestors. Why is that? Why are there broke manifestors? It's partial, incomplete narratives. And so I have programs that work on that,
Yeah.
right, which help people gain wealth and create impact in the world, that are about the things that you actually need to do in order to have that manifest in your life, as opposed to the things that you need to dream to do.
We have known each other for a long time. I don't know if you remember this instance, but it's probably 7 years ago. I was telling you that I was feeling depressed. And you looked at me and you said, choose happiness. And I just wanted to throw my hands up and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? How do you just choose happiness? Like, meet me on my level. Like, I'm not computing. Now, 7 years later, I understand more fully. And those two words are beautiful, actually, because once you really figure out how to choose happiness and how to embody that, you realize that it's really possible.
So first of all, I owe you an apology. What was missing was me being empathetic towards what you were going through. That's what was missing. For me to connect with those feelings that you were feeling, and then us working through that together. To choose happiness, yes, that's a possibility after you and I go through an empathetic process together. Kind of what I know myself to be is a futurist. I can see futures. So what I've had to develop is the ability to hold the future, but also, empathize with the present. So yes, you can choose happiness. We all have that choice. And for some people, choosing happiness may be a future as opposed to a present. And in the present, whatever state it is that you're in, like choosing, accepting that, and then moving from that acceptance into another state, right? So that's how I would tweak that.
I think you would agree that it's not easy to get into the arts and make a living through the arts, especially when you have a lot of evolution to go through. When I decided to get a degree in theater, my dad shared this joke with me. What does the new college graduate getting a theater degree say on his first day of work?
I don't know what.
Would you like fries with that?
Okay. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting pirate.
Interrupting.
Roar.
Okay, you know what's especially funny about that? I missed what you said. Interrupting what?
Pirate.
Pirate. I thought you said Powerade. So I was just like, what? Like the energy drink? Interrupting Powerade.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah. That's a 6-year-old knock knock joke.
That was literally perfect.
Thanks, Melanie.
Okay, this is the last and final question, and most important question as it relates to talking to Earthlings. What does it mean to be human?
When I hear the word be, I think ontology, right? What is the ontology? It's the ability to have a lot of different ways of being. The ability to have a lot of ways of being. And the way of being that you are determines what the environment is, determines what activity it is that you are doing, exposed to, attract, all of those things. Who you are as a being plays a tremendous role in that. So that's what I would say. Being human is being.
Yeah. Well, Marcus Bellringer, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything that you would like to share about what you're doing?
I created a challenge. It's the 100 Days Impact Challenge. There's a course in there, there's a community there, and there's a structure. And so you can join that challenge. It's like $1 a day. The challenge is designed to support people in their most important aims. My program, Wealth and Impact Bootcamp, it's not for everybody, right? It's only for people that are looking to gain wealth and impact in the world through uplifting the planet and creating some value that's going to help, humanity. People can apply to join that program at wealthandimpactbootcamp.com.
Well, awesome. Once again, Marcus, it was so great having you here and just so good to see you.
Thanks for having me. And it's great to see your growth over these years and, see who you're becoming and who you be.
Hey guys, thanks for watching that episode. As a reminder, we've created Talking to Earthlings to have raw and honest conversation with one another in an effort to unite human beings who may not agree ideologically, but who can be inspired by one another's vulnerabilities. By watching our show, you are helping us accomplish our goal of changing the world, one conversation at a time. Make sure to follow us on socials to stay updated. Thanks.